General uncertainty on the political horizon. The first quarter of 2017 arrives to its end and political uncertainty in Brazil is growing every day. A traditional Brazilian politician, Magalhães Pinto, used to say that politics is like a cloud. You look and it is in a way. Look again and it has changed. The difference is that in the Internet and Star Wars era, it is not enough to see the clouds. Uncertainties are cosmic, beyond the clouds. All political parties need to review their strategies, their leaders, their resources, their real possibilities. The only certain thing is that there are no certainties on the horizon. Pressed by courts, defendant in 5 criminal cases, the Workers' Party decided to change the negative approach towards Lula, dealing with criminal charges as if they were part of his opponent's political campaign aimed at preventing Lula's victory in the presidential race of 2018. The same Lula called the members of the PT, Workers' Party, for a symbolic inauguration of the transposition of the São Francisco River. This work, whose objective is to bring water to the very poor regions, has a symbolic character for the people of the arid zones of the Northeast. It turns out that the meeting had very little participation of local populations, and it has been perceived by the Electoral Tribunal as an anticipation of the launch of Lula's presidential campaign, which is prohibited by the Brazilian electoral law. This could lead to the prohibition of the future candidacy of Lula himself. The Workers' Party was forced to withdraw and abandon the electoral narrative. In the field of social democracy, PSDB, uncertainties are also great. In theory the party has 3 pre-candidates to the 2018 elections: the current governor of São Paulo, Brazil's largest electoral college, Geraldo Alckmin, Isha Neves, the former presidential candidate defeated in 2014, heir of the political tradition of the state of Minas Gerais, with the second largest number of voters, and José Serra, also of São Paulo, former foreign minister and also a former defeated presidential candidate, lost due to Dilma Rousseff, in 2010. One problem is that all these candidates have their names involved in corruption scandals. Then comes an independent name, an outsider without political tradition, which could represent the social democracy in the next elections, João Doria, the victorious candidate for mayor of the city of São Paulo, capital of the state of São Paulo, the main industrial and financial center of Latin America. The third force in the next presidential election is the party of President Michel Temer. The PMDB was the main ally of the Workers' Party in the 13 years of its government, with Dilma Rousseff and Lula da Silva. Today, these PT years are seen as the period in Brazil's history of greater illegal activity and corruption in the administration and large corporations. Michel Temer himself is in danger of losing his mandate, under the accusation of using money diverted from public companies, such as Petrobras, to finance the victorious electoral campaign of Dilma and Temer's ticket. The main allies in Temer's party are also under investigation in the Lava Jato process and are threatened with imprisonment in the coming months. This leaves the PMDB in the same political uncertainty as the other main parties. After 25 years of successive left-wing or center-left candidates, Bolsonaro is the first candidate to openly proclaim himself as a representative of the right, defending the policies and ideology of the period of military dictatorship. Anti-gay, anti-abortion, anti-communist, the former military adheres to zero tolerance. Its electoral fragility can come from a scathing complaint: the recent acts of vandalism and social disorder that occurred in the state of Espírito Santo had support from the leaders linked to its campaign. The state lived nearly 10 days of chaos, with murders, robberies, looting and widespread disruption. The balance was more than 100 homicides. Bolsonaro advocates repression with more energy against crime and disorder. The purpose of the acts would show how weak the state is in fighting crime and that a strong and resilient leader was needed. Another factor of uncertainty is the financing of the electoral campaigns. Unimaginable amounts of money were handled in the recent past, which, it is now known, was corruption at Petrobras. The population is attentive to the question of the financing of the elections. Hardly, political parties can carry multi-million sums in their electoral budgets without lifting social revolt. Political marketing is perhaps the only issue in which there is no uncertainty. It focused completely on social networks. Under budget, money discreetly paid to foreign companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter, without control of electoral justice and the possibility of parameterizing the scope and results. In the 2018 election, candidates must maintain the populist discourse that has triumphed in the past. Through qualitative research, candidates are up to date with the expectations of the population. Their speeches try to translate, in a more or less creative way, the electorate's options. However, in Brazil with the United States, the populist discourse has demonstrated its limitations and its risks. Donald Trump, in the first 2 months of his government, has suffered 3 major defeats in populist themes of his campaign: to finance the construction of the wall with resources from Mexico, to prohibit the entrance to the citizens of Muslim countries, and the suppression of the Obamacare. This may be a warning to future candidates with Bolsonaro, Lula da Silva and Doria. The populist discourse brings immediate results in the elections. However, like analgesics, it resolves temporarily, but can complicate the clinical picture, if the problems to solve are more complex than the intuitive perception of the electorate. The big question that has perpetuated corruption practices in Brazil are not on the surface of the system, that is, they are not in the software, but in the hardware of the policy. The conclusion is that they are the political parties themselves, their laws, their governance, their budget that brings the distortions. It is necessary to review the political parties themselves. The current model no longer has the incentive to support the demands of society. Opinion by Fausto Freire. Fausto Freire is editor-in-chief of Brazil.